dreamers. Welcome back to Dream Desk Bedtime Stories. Tonight, we return to Lumi's Lucky Shop, the little magical shop in the middle of the city, where warm lanterns glow in the window. Tea rests quietly in glass jars, and two little cats are never very far away. But tonight's story begins long before the shop opens. It begins with a breeze, a very special breeze, the kind that carries the smell of pine trees, cool moss, lavender growing wild, and the memory of home. Because tonight, someone is coming to visit Lumi. Someone from the forest. Someone who knew her before the city, before the shop, before Beast and Lion, before she became the keeper of so many small and tender stories. Tonight, an old friend is coming. Her name is Estelle. So snuggle into your blanket, take a soft, slow breath in, and let's begin. The morning began with a pale silver sky and a soft wind moving through the city streets. It was one of those gentle mornings when the world seemed to wake slowly, as if it were stretching one sleepy arm at a time. The clouds drifted low and thin above the rooftops. The windows of nearby shops glimmered with early light. Somewhere down the street, a baker was opening the front shutters. A cart rolled over stone with a quiet clatter. A pigeon flapped from one chimney to another, and then settled down again, as though even flying felt like too much effort just yet. Inside Lumi's Lucky Shop, the day had not quite begun. Upstairs, Lumi was still asleep beneath her patchwork blanket. Beast was curled neatly in his usual place near the foot of the bed, dark and tidy even in sleep, as though he had arranged himself carefully before closing his eyes. Lion was sprawled in a very unneat position across the blanket near Lumi's knees. One paw sticking up, his golden fur puffed and warm from sleep. For a little while, the room was quiet. Then Lumi stirred. She turned onto one side, half asleep, and breathed in softly. Her eyes opened, then blinked once, then blinked again. She sat up slowly, because something smelled different. Not bad, not sharp, not dangerous, just unexpected. Lumi breathed in again. Pine, fern, damp earth after cool shade, night flowers that opened only in deep woods, a breeze from the forest. That made no sense at all. The city smelled like bread, paper, tea, rain on stone, sea air on some mornings, chimney smoke on cold nights, and flowers from the stand down the street. It did not smell like forest paths and mossy roots. Lumi pushed the blanket back. Lion made a sleepy sound and rolled over. Beast opened one eye at once. "You smell that too, don't you?" Lumi whispered. Beast rose immediately, alert. Lion opened both eyes more slowly, yawned hugely, then sniffed the air. The little room upstairs felt different this morning. Not just because of the scent, because of the feeling, a feeling like memory entering the room before the day itself. Lumi climbed out of bed, crossed the floor, and went to the round window. She unlatched it and pushed pushed it open. The cool breeze slipped inside, and with it came the scent again, clearer now. Forest air, and underneath it, moon bells. Lumi's breath caught. Moonbells were tiny, pale flowers that grew near the clearing behind Grandma Willow's house. They only bloomed at the edge of spring and always smelled faintly sweet, like dew and old magic and evening songs. Very few people knew their scent. Only someone from home would carry it. Lumi's heart began to beat faster. Not with fear, with surprise. She turned quickly and hurried downstairs, Beast already beside her, Lion scrambling after them both in a much less dignified way. The shop below was still dim and quiet. Morning had not fully reached the inside yet. The shelves rested in shadow and pale light. The little gold candle by the counter had not been lit. But there, hanging on the inside doorknob, was something that had not been there the night before. A ribbon. A long, soft ribbon of deep midnight blue, tied in a looping forest knot that Lumi had not seen in many months. Attached to the ribbon was a small silver leaf charm. Lumi stopped in the middle of the room. Then she smiled, then stared, then smiled again. No, she whispered. Beast looked from the ribbon to Lumi. Lion sat down and blinked at it, as if unsure whether this was a toy, a snack, or a mysterious object that required careful nap-based observation. Lumi moved toward the door very slowly and lifted the charm in her hand. Yes, there on the silver leaf, almost too tiny to see unless the light touched it just right, was a mark scratched in one corner, a little star with two tails. Estelle's mark. Lumi let out the breath she had been holding. Estelle, she said softly. The name felt like a door opening inside her chest. 100 memories fluttered up at once. A girl with pale hair tied in ribbons that never stayed tied. A bright laugh echoing between trees. 2 little witches running with muddy boots through fern paths. A summer storm watched from under a giant mushroom cap. Hands stained purple from berry spells gone wrong. Grandma Willow and Estelle's mother talking over steaming teacups while the girls sat on the floor inventing impossible potions. Lumi looked down at the charm again and smiled so fully that even Beast's serious expression softened into a slow blink. Estelle is here. Lion mewed, mostly because he believed all surprising news deserved breakfast immediately afterward. Lumi laughed. All right, she said. But first we need to open the shop, and then... She stopped. Then what? Estelle had come from the forest, all the way to the city, without warning. Why? The question settled quietly behind her ribs. She tied the blue ribbon gently around the little hook near the door, lit the gold candle on the counter, and opened the shop as she always did. But all morning, a little current of excitement moved under everything she did. When she lined up the courage charms, she thought of the first one Estelle had ever made. a lopsided acorn charm that had been meant to help with climbing trees, and instead had made a squirrel sneeze glitter for a week. When she poured tea for an elderly woman with tired hands, she remembered the summer she and Estelle had tried to invent a tea for bravery and accidentally made one that made everyone sing before speaking. When she polished the moon lantern by the window, she thought of how Estelle had always preferred brighter spells than Lumi did. Lumi liked warm glows and gentle shimmer. Estelle liked sparks, ribbons of light, dramatic entrances, and stars that flashed. Even their magic had been different from the start. And yet, they had loved each other dearly, because difference had never mattered in the forest the way people sometimes thought it did. There, what mattered was whether you shared your jam buns, whether you admitted when a spell went wrong, whether you showed up when someone had mud on both boots and no idea how to get home before dark. Around midday, when the city was brightest and the shop bell had just rung to let out a customer with 3 little sleep sachets, Lumi heard it. A knock, not on the door, on the window. Tap, tap, tap. Lumi turned. Outside the shop window stood a young witch in a green travel cloak dusted with road powder and pine needles. Her hair, pale gold with a touch of silver in it where the light hit, was braided loosely over one shoulder, though wisps had escaped everywhere. Her boots were muddy. Her hat was bent. Her smile was wide and bright and entirely familiar. Estelle, for one whole second, Lumi simply stared. Then she ran. She nearly knocked over a basket of folded cloths on the way. Beast, offended by unnecessary chaos, leapt aside with perfect timing. Lion, woken from a cushion nap by the sudden movement, looked outraged for exactly 3 seconds before deciding he should also run, just in case there were dramatic developments involving lunch. Lumi pulled the door open so quickly the bell gave a confused double ring. Estelle! Lumi. They hugged each other at once. Not a careful hug. A full, old, crashing together kind of hug. The kind only people who had loved each other for a very long time could manage properly. Estelle laughed into Lumi's shoulder. You're really here. So are you, Lumi cried. Then she pulled back just enough to look at her properly. Estelle's cheeks were wind-bright from travel. Her eyes were shining. There was a tiny scratch on one hand, and one sleeve had a rip near the cuff. She looked exactly like someone who had crossed forest paths, hill roads, and perhaps 1 or 2 avoidable puddles without particularly minding any of it. You walked all the way from the outer woods, didn't you? Lumi asked. Estelle tried to look innocent and failed immediately. Mostly. Estelle. There was one cart. Lumi laughed. One cart? And a very short lift from a mushroom trader who was going toward the lower road. Lumi laughed harder. You haven't changed at all. Oh, I have, Estelle said grandly. I am much wiser now. Beast, who had approached by this point, gave Estelle a long, serious look. Estelle gasped. And this must be Beast. Beast blinked once, as if accepting his formal introduction. And where, Estelle said, lowering her voice, is the famous lion I have heard so much about in Grandma Willow's letters? Lion, as if summoned by the sound of his own importance, appeared from behind the counter and sat down with fluffy dignity. Estelle bent instantly. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh, he's even more ridiculous than I imagined." Lion accepted this as praise. He rubbed against her boot at once. Estelle laughed. Then she straightened and looked around the shop for the first time properly. Her eyes moved slowly across the shelves, the warm candles, the jars, the ribbons hanging near the window, the tray of lucky stones, the little chair by the counter, the moon lantern, the curtain behind the work table, the blue ribbon now tied by the door. And something changed in her expression. The brightness stayed, but underneath it came something quieter, something thoughtful. "This is your place," she said softly. Lumi looked around too. "Yes," she said. "It is." Estelle nodded once, but said nothing more right then. Lumi put the kettle on immediately, because some things never changed, and old friends from the forest ought not to stand in city shops without tea in hand for longer than 5 minutes. Soon they were sitting behind the counter with warm cups between them, while Beast took up his post near the door and Lion attempted, quite successfully, to occupy Estelle's lap. Estelle stroked Lion absently as she spoke. "Grandma Willow sends love," she said. Lumi smiled at once. "How is she?" "Steady, busy, still pretending she is not tired whenever anyone tells her to rest." Lumi laughed softly. "That does sound like her." "She sent rosemary biscuits. I forgot to hand them over because you threw yourself at me before I could become dignified." "That was never likely to happen anyway," Lumi said. Estelle grinned. From a satchel at her side, she pulled a cloth parcel tied with red string and handed it across. Lumi untied it immediately. Inside were rosemary biscuits shaped like little moons. The scent rose warm and familiar, and so deeply like home that for a moment Lumi's eyes stung unexpectedly. "Thank you," she said softly. Estelle watched her for a second and smiled without teasing. "I thought you'd like them." "I do." They drank tea. They talked all through the middle of the day whenever customers were not in the shop, and sometimes even between customers when the conversation spilled onward too delightfully to stop. Estelle told Lumi that the lower bridge near the fern path had finally been repaired after 3 seasons of people falling through its most dramatic plank. Lumi laughed so hard she nearly spilled her tea. Estelle told her that old Mr. Fenwick still insisted on growing glow turnips, though everyone had gently suggested that vegetables should perhaps not hum in the dark. Lumi nearly choked laughing. Lumi told Estelle about the children who came into the shop with worries tucked into their pockets like folded notes. About the girl who bought a gift for her tired mother. About the boy who had learned to tell the true part of a friendship story. About the child who was making a brave path from bed to bathroom, one small step at a time. About Lion disappearing to the sea. About Beast's opinions, which were many and stern. Estelle listened. Really listened. She laughed at the funny parts, grew soft at the tender parts. Once or twice she looked so proud that Lumi had to glance away and tidy something that did not need tidying. By late afternoon, the shop grew quieter. The sunlight shifted lower. The window glowed honey gold. A little hush came over the room. Estelle stood and wandered slowly around the shelves again. She touched nothing at first, just looked. Finally, she picked up a little glass bottle filled with pale silver dust. "What's this?" "Moon lantern dust," said Lumi. "For children who need a soft light but not too much of it." Estelle nodded and set it down. Then she looked at a tray of smooth stones painted with tiny stars. "And these? Pocket calming stones." Estelle smiled faintly. Then her hand rested on the back of the little chair by the window. "The children sit here?" "Yes." Estelle traced a finger along the wood. "And the grown-ups too?" Sometimes Estelle looked out the window. The city moved past in slow afternoon steps. People who had worried faces came by and left lighter. People who had rushed in came out slower. People waved at the cats. A little girl pressed her nose to the glass, and Lion yawned majestically for her. Estelle's hand stayed on the chair. Then, quietly, she said, "They do need you." Lumi turned. Something about the way Estelle had said it made her heart shift. Not because the words were surprising, because of what was sitting behind them. There was a pause, the sort that collects itself before becoming something important. Estelle let out a soft breath and turned around fully. "Lumi," she said gently, "I didn't only come to visit." Lumi had known, in a small, quiet part of herself, that this was true. Still, hearing it made her stomach flutter. She set down the jar she had been holding. "All right," she said softly. "Then tell me." Estelle came back and sat across from her. Lion stayed in her lap, as if he suspected emotional conversations required additional softness. Beast opened one eye from near the door. The shop had grown still enough that even the clock on the far shelf seemed louder than usual. Tick, tick, tick. Estelle folded her hands around her teacup and looked down at it for a moment before speaking. "The forest misses you," she said. Lumi felt the words as much as heard them. Estelle continued, her voice warm and careful. "Grandma Willow misses you. I miss you. The path behind the clearing misses you. The little stream where you dropped your first wand misses you." "I did not drop it," Lumi protested automatically. "You absolutely dropped it." "It slipped." Estelle smiled. Then the smile faded into tenderness again. "The truth is," she said, "home feels different without you." Lumi was quiet. Estelle looked up at her then, openly, honestly. "We all thought this shop would be for a while, just until you had your adventure, just until you helped a few people and learned what you needed to learn. But it's been longer now." Lumi listened very still. "And I know you're happy here," Estelle said. "I can see that. But I came because—" She hesitated. "Because I wanted to ask if you would come back." The words landed gently, but they landed. Come back. Return home. Leave the city. Leave the shop. Leave the people who came here with aching hearts and careful questions. Lumi stared down at the grain of the wooden counter. For a moment, the shop seemed full of two times at once. The forest and the city, pine shade and street light, mossy paths and stone roads. Grandma Willow's kitchen and her own little counter with jars of moon dust. "Come back for how long?" Lumi asked quietly. Estelle shook her head slightly. "I don't know. For a season. For longer. For good. Maybe." Lumi's breath caught. Estelle rushed on, perhaps hearing how large that sounded now that it had been spoken aloud. "Not because what you're doing here isn't good. It is. It's lovely. I can see that. But you belong with us too. You always will." Lumi looked up. Estelle's eyes were shining now, not with tears exactly, but with feeling she was trying to keep gentle. "The forest was where we grew up," Estelle said. "Your laughter is in it. Your magic is in it. Sometimes I walk past the old stump where we used to sit and sort pebbles, and I still expect you to be there, holding the ugly ones and saying they were secretly special." "They were secretly special," Lumi murmured. Estelle smiled. "I know." Silence settled again. Outside, someone passed laughing in the street. A cartwheel bumped over a ridge in the road. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked twice and then thought better of continuing. Inside the shop, Lumi felt very full. Because the truth was, she missed home too. She missed the forest after rain. She missed the path to Grandma Willow's house that glowed with tiny mushrooms after sunset. She missed the small pond behind Estelle's family cottage, where dragonflies hovered in summer. She missed knowing which branch would creak before it did, which kettle in which kitchen always whistled too soon, which window seat got the best afternoon light. She missed not having to explain herself. And yet, her eyes moved around the shop, to the little chair, to the moon lantern, to the tray of stones, to beast, to lion, to the door. At almost that exact moment, as if the world had chosen its timing with unreasonable accuracy, the bell above the door rang. Ting. A child stood there, holding the hand of a tired-looking father. Lumi knew the little girl at once. She had come before, the one who had needed a courage charm for reading aloud in class. The girl smiled when she saw Lumi. "Hello," she said. "Hello," Lumi replied softly. The father nodded apologetically. "I'm sorry. Are you closing?" "Not yet," Lumi said. The girl held up a little paper packet proudly. "I came to tell you," she said. "I did the reading." Lumi's face lit at once. "You did?" The girl nodded fiercely. My knees still felt wobbly, but I did it anyway. Lumi came around the counter. That is very brave. The girl beamed. Estelle sat very still, watching. The father smiled too now, tiredness softening into pride. We just wanted to stop by and say thank you, he said. Lumi knelt and accepted the paper packet. Inside was a biscuit shaped like a star, a little cracked at one point where perhaps it had been bumped in travel. It's from me, the girl said, and also from Dad, but mostly from me. Lumi smiled. I will treasure it. The girl nodded, satisfied. Then the father and daughter left, the bell ringing softly behind them. The room went quiet again. Estelle looked at the door for a long moment after it closed. Then back at Lumi. And though she did not say anything right away, Lumi could see that she had seen everything she needed to see. Not just the thank you. The way Lumi's whole face had changed when the girl came in. The way the shop itself seemed to lean warm around moments like that. The way belonging can happen in more than one place, and sometimes all at once. Evening came slowly after that. The sky outside turned amber, then rose, then dusky blue at the edges. Lumi lit the evening candles one by one. Estelle helped without being asked, and for a while they moved around each other with the old easy understanding of people who had once grown up side by side. Later, when the shop was closed and the front curtains were drawn, Lumi took Estelle upstairs to the little room beneath the round window. It's smaller than your forest room, Estelle said, looking around. It is. But it feels like you. Lumi smiled. They sat side by side on the edge of the bed while Beast occupied the window, and Lion, having decided Estelle was now officially family, slept between them in an extravagant golden sprawl. The city night outside was soft and distant. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Estelle said, very quietly, Do you want to come back? Lumi answered truthfully, Yes. Estelle turned to her quickly. Lumi looked at her hands. I do, she said again. Part of me does. The honesty of it made the room gentler somehow. I miss home, Lumi whispered. I miss Grandma. I miss the woods. I miss being somewhere my feet already know. Estelle's expression softened completely. But, she asked. Lumi lifted her eyes. But I don't think I meant to leave this place, she said. The words did not come quickly. They came slowly, like something she was discovering even as she spoke it. At first, I thought this shop was only for a little while, she said. I thought I would help a few people, learn something about myself, and then maybe go home again. Estelle listened without interrupting. But then more people came, Lumi said, and they brought such small, careful hurts with them. Hurts that looked little from the outside and felt enormous inside them. And I knew how to help, not in a grand way, not with fireworks or big spells. Just, she touched the blanket lightly. with the kind of magic I have." Estelle's eyes shone. Lumi went on. "The city is loud and busy and strange sometimes, but there are children here who need somewhere soft to land. There are grown-ups who need quiet. There are hearts that come into the shop all tangled up, and somehow—" She looked around the small room, the shop below it, the city beyond it. "Somehow this place became mine." Estelle nodded once, slowly. Lumi's voice dropped to a whisper. "And I think I became theirs." The room was very still. Only lions breathing. Only the distant city. Only the small moving sound of Beast's tail against the window ledge. Estelle looked down and smiled, though there was sadness in it now too. "Grandma Willow said you might say that." Lumi turned. "She did?" Estelle nodded. "She told me, go and ask her properly, but do not mistake missing someone for knowing where they belong." Lumi felt tears prick unexpectedly at her eyes. "That sounds exactly like her." "It does." Estelle laughed softly. Then the laughter faded. "I was hoping she was wrong," Estelle admitted. Lumi reached for her hand at once. Estelle squeezed it back. "I know," Lumi whispered. They sat there for a long while after that, not trying to fix the tenderness of the moment, not trying to rush it away. At length, Estelle said, "I don't want you to go because I think you've chosen badly." Lumi nodded. "I know. I want you to come because I love you." Lumi swallowed hard. "I know that too." Estelle smiled through the ache of it. "Good." Then Lumi smiled too, a little wobbly. "Also, if I came back full time, you would have to share herb shelves again." Estelle gasped in theatrical horror. "Oh no, you're right. Stay here." Lumi laughed, and the whole room loosened around the sound. The next morning arrived clear and bright. Estelle stayed long enough to help open the shop. She stood in the doorway, watching children wave at the cats, and a grandmother buy calming tea, and a little boy come in to ask if worry stones could be used before spelling tests and after accidental mud disasters. At one point, Estelle leaned over and whispered to Lumi, "You know what's annoying?" "What?" "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." Lumi smiled. "You say that like it's inconvenient." "It is wildly inconvenient," Estelle said. "I was ready for a dramatic speech and a return journey." Lumi laughed softly. Instead of taking Lumi back, Estelle spent the morning learning how the shop worked. She wrapped little boxes in paper. She tied ribbons around tea packets. She discovered that Beast strongly disapproved of crooked labels. She discovered that Lion approved of lying directly on wrapping paper at the most inconvenient times. And as she moved through the little warm place, she seemed to understand it more and more with every passing hour. By midday, when it was time for her to leave, the sadness of parting came quietly instead of all at once. They stood outside the shop under the sign, while the city drifted around them in ordinary, shining life. Estelle adjusted her travel cloak. Lumi tied the midnight blue ribbon more neatly at Estelle's wrist this time, so it would not snag on thorn bushes or dramatic branches. "You'll come visit," Estelle said. "Yes." "And you'll send letters?" "Yes." Real letters, not tiny notes written on leaves. That happened once. It happened 5 times. Lumi grinned. "I'll send proper letters." "And if Grandma Willow pretends she doesn't miss you?" "I should understand that she misses me very much." "Exactly." They hugged again, tightly this time. Not because they were unsure, because love wants to hold on a little when roads divide. When they pulled apart, Estelle rested her forehead briefly against Lumi's. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. Lumi's eyes stung again. "Thank you." Estelle looked at the shop, then at Beast and Lion in the window, then back at Lumi. "Take care of your city hearts." "I will." "And save one corner of yourself for the forest." Lumi smiled. "I couldn't help that if I tried." Estelle nodded, satisfied. Then she stepped back, lifted 2 fingers in a little forest witch salute, and turned toward the road that led away from the city and back to the trees. Lumi stood watching until the green cloak disappeared into the movement of the street. She stayed there for a long moment after. Not sad exactly, not happy exactly, full in the way people feel when something tender has been spoken honestly and left in the open where it belongs. At last, she turned back toward the shop. The bell rang softly as she stepped inside. Beast gave her one slow blink. Lion stretched across the windowsill like a lazy golden ribbon. The little chair waited by the counter. The candles glowed. The jars shone. And from the street came the sound of small footsteps approaching. Lumi smiled. Then she whispered, not sadly, not uncertainly, but with calm knowing. "I'm home." And because hearts can hold more than one home at once, the forest did not leave her when she said it. It came and rested quietly beside the city inside her. And now, little dreamers, our story has come to an end. Tonight, Lumi was reminded of something very special. Sometimes we can miss a place very much and still know that we are meant to be where we are. Sometimes our hearts can hold old memories, new friendships, and more than one home at the same time. And that is a very beautiful thing. Now the shop is quiet. The candles are glowing softly. Beast is watching nearby. Lion is warm and sleepy. And Lumi is resting, with both the forest and the city in her heart. So now it is your turn to rest too. You are safe. You are loved. And you do not have to rush. Close your eyes, little dreamer. Snuggle into your blanket and let the quiet night hold you gently. Sweet dreams, and I will see you in the next story. Good night.